Hello everybody and welcome back to Language Litigation and Integration Part 2. This one's called A Plague of Word Salad. In this lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to keep discussing how language expands, how people learn words. We're going to go through literal alphabets, and just again, I've made the claim, but it's profoundly true that a context defines a variable. We'll show you how you use the same letters to represent different sounds, but how simply a language is the grammar that you set up, and the letters simply represent the sounds of a language. But we're going to cover law, some history stuff, the actual languages, and then we're going to use real world examples. I mean, a theory of language is extremely accessible. We all have social media. We're all on our cell phones all of the days and our computers all the time. So we're going to go through, no one personally, but just we're going to see how the things I am saying literally happen as they happen on Reddit, Instagram, LinkedIn, these different platforms we all use. But to start, we're just going to review a couple things. The empirical value function assesses the validity of statements with the absolute not gate. Again, say not or no to any extent. And let's give us some examples. How do we say no to different words? Right? We said no and not. But we also use prefixes such as ill, logical, illogical, unnatural, unnatural, typical, atypical. These are all different ways, again, of how we assert something and then we negate that. If you speak French, je ne parle pas français. I do not speak French. But you use ne pas. I personally, quoi est ne? I don't know literally what ne is, because pas is not. But we'll get to the languages. But these are just different examples of how you say no. And this is again for the really, really true reason that experience far outreaches the descriptive capacity of language for any one individual or the entire species. We're going to start, we'll probably start with the history lessons, because again, we will start with the history lessons, but history proves individuality is remembered. Right? If you look over the large-scale history of human beings, the first history book is Herodotus. And why is that? Well, because he told a narrative. He related his experiences to the experiences of the world. If you go back pre-Herodotus, you're looking at literally just like a bunch of Greek dudes listing their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents and then saying, yeah, we're all super sweet. That's not really an insult. I mean, that's just obviously 2,500 years ago, the way that the society is run, you would never, not that you would never predict technology to exist like the internet, but it's much more primitive. I mean, you have to show respect to the people that came before you, which is what everyone does now, but it's a lot more bona fide, because their societies are a lot more, not being morbid, but they're just a lot more exposed to death. I mean, there's been certain, I want to say in the Renaissance times, again, I don't know this for a fact, but it should be close. In the Renaissance times in certain cities, the expected lifespan was 25 years of age. So when death is a lot more prevalent in your society, people are just a lot more realistic. I mean, there's not a lot of narrative in there. But narrative is remembered for the good and for the bad. But Herodotus was the first history textbook, I would say. And that is the proof of that. I mean, there's been billions and billions and billions of people. And when I say history is remembered for the good and the bad, that's why you have people like Hitler. Most people are just biological organisms. They want to have a nice day, make a nice paycheck, have a family, and go home to their families. That's what I want to do. That's what most people want to do. But anytime someone has the resolve to do something good or bad, it's clearly remembered in our species. And there's diction to remember that. And then I just have a concentric circles up here. I just have one individual person, right? Nobody's in anybody else's head. Everyone learns for themselves. Learning is an individual process. We all exist. No person exists in a vacuum. We live in a society, and that's not only where you learn your words, but that's an individual grows their vocabulary over their lifetime. A species grows their vocabulary over a much larger period of time. Both of those sets of experiences are much bigger than the descriptive capacity of language that's ever present, right? No individual can explain everything that, like, I don't know all of history, Johnny doesn't know all of math, I don't know all of math. Like, nobody knows all of anything, so that's one unknown. But there's still people in that society that do know any given fact or some facts. And then just past that, there's stuff nobody knows. And not only over history is individuality remembered, but precision of language. Like I said, if you correctly describe an experience, the words that remain, right? I use the quid pro quo, but right, if you're an entrepreneur, that is a French word, entrepreneur. I don't know what that word means either. Not fundamentally, but the presence of those words is the scientific evidence. And so what I'm here is the likeness bias. We've all been in a room with people public speaking. So like, I don't know, when you do that, you don't know what you're talking about. And that is because experience is so much bigger than the words that you know. And what like does is it changes the logical analogy you are using to describe something that you're talking about. And that gets again to the function of how language developed. I think the printing press was 500-ish AD. I might be off by, again, some amount of time. I don't know, I want to take that back. It might be 1500. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, Renaissance, it's got to be 1500. I think 400 AD, there was that's where the Catholic translations, like the saints who translated all of... okay, so again, getting into the history lesson, population goes up substantially. This is why democracy is no longer a thing. The ancient Greeks actually had literal democracy. People in America say we have a democracy. No, we do not. We have a republic. That's a good thing. You don't want to have to literally have everyone... Democracy means government administered by the people. Once your population goes up too much, it's functionally and practically impossible. So now we're just going to simply demonstrate the likeness bias. First, I misspoke. I said je ne parle pas français. But je ne parle pas français. I don't speak French very much. I read a lot, but my listening comprehension is pretty much stuck to music at this point. But that'll get better. But okay, so remember, it is what it is. And I seriously want you to do this. Think about how long ago it was until you said this literal sentence. Or turn on the TV and turn to any random channel and wait till you hear this statement. It'll probably be honestly less than 5 minutes. Well, it'll certainly be less than 5 minutes anytime people are in an argument or in a discussion. Anything that's analytical. And also, just doing a quick physics and math aside, there's what's called parameters of state, or I call them parameters of state, even though states don't exist. But it's just what variables do you need to completely describe a system, right? In quantum field theory, they use bosons and fermions. But in VIT, now, okay, so let me make that point. So I've introduced my research as vibrational information theory. But again, language is the evidence of what I'm saying to be true based on the qualities and the identities that I've already proven. So vibrational information is literally me vibrating my vocal cords to talk to you right now. It's not I made the point that using a bunch of adjectives and you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about, but it's exceedingly hard to describe a theory of language because you have to use language to do so. But again, I'm going to kind of stop addressing my work as a different theory and more just, again, talking. But getting back to what I was saying about the how long would it take you to hear the "it is what it is" statement, how long would it take you to hear the words rhythm or the words tension? It'll be less than 1 minute. And these are the parameters of state. These are the words you use to correctly describe any physical systems at any scale. Again, go turn on the TV and let me know how long it takes. But getting back to our example, it is what it is. I can say that to anything in the room. It is what it is. Our empirical value function would say, yes, correct, that is a valid statement. It is what it is. Correct, it is. Looking at the chair, it is what it is. But now using my marker, it is what it is. That's the most general. Now I say it is a cylinder. Well, no. A cylinder is a perfectly defined geometric object. It's not a cylinder. It's a cylinder-like object. I would say that is a valid statement, and it's valid. But this is where the lightness bias comes in. We've used an analogy to an object. The analogy is to the cylinder, but we say like. And then I say it is a marker. That would be the most specific. And this is a local word. Go to alien planet Joe's planet and say, hey dude, what do you write with? Probably not going to say the word marker. Or go to any other language. Again, I don't know the word marker in French or Spanish or Italian or Portuguese. I don't know. Stilo. On stilo. I think so. I might be pen. But the point is that it's the most specific you can be. And now I say it is a book. And you say no, that's flat out just no. But now, like I said, that's how we just did an extremely simple example with a marker. Now what about yourself? I'm Brad. What am I like? Well, if we look at our society and go back on our social media apps, it's all the times you click the button like. And that's how we define ourselves. That's how we establish our identity as people and as a society and as a species. And I just wanted to do it a simple example. But I also do want to do an example of rhythm. Again, me speaking to you is an example of rhythm. Me going from, I'll just show you. Here's a pot of water. This is literally just a small saucepan with a little bit of water in it. I want you to do this yourself. You're not going to be able to see the water here. But I want you to try to make a droplet of water jump out of the pan. You'll see when you hit the side of the pan that concentric circles centralize to the center of the water. And if you can get it right, you can get a little droplet to jump out. And what you're doing is you're using timing to establish a rhythm. The water represents a field, right? In quantum field theory, we talk about fermions or excitations of a field. Any mass-carrying particles in excitation. Well, just like the water, light is literally the medium of mass. And so, that right there in about 30 seconds shows you that rhythm is the correct state of equation terminology and not bosons and fermions. You'll never say those words at any other contexts. But you should definitely try it out. It's a pretty cool little experiment thing. Moving on, now we'll cover some language stuff again. Now jumping back to the functions of language, we're just going to review the basics that you learned in English class or linguistics class or how to write a sentence. But right, we have our most general statement, or it is what it is. That's a sentence. And so now I just have a sentence up here, Brad helps. And this is the simplest complete sentence you can have. And this is just, you need a subject and a verb. And then you have a complete sentence. Now, what if I said, Brad helps Jen? Who is Jen? Jen is the direct object of the sentence. Now what if I said, Brad helps Jen with the bed? Now we have the complete sentence. Brad's helping Jen, and maybe they're putting together a bed frame. Maybe they're, I don't know, chopping down a tree to build a bed frame. Maybe they are moving a bed frame. Right? Most general, now we're getting more specific. But with is a preposition. And with the bed being a noun, the being the direct article, noun, and with is the preposition. Now, anyone who's ever learned a second language or more, the first thing you will notice is the prepositions. Now, why is that? Ask yourself, try to answer. Why is that? Well, it's because they indicate direction. They tell you how different statements or different nouns relate to other nouns or other parts of the sentence. And getting to the foundations of language, that is how we describe things, and that's how we associate things, is with that likeness bias. And this is why English is the language of science. It has the most unique prepositions. If you're an English speaker going to a different language, you'll typically say, why is there so little prepositions? And if you're a non-native English speaker, you'll typically wonder why there's so many. But now relating this to our empirical value function, right, this is still a pretty vague statement. Now what if we change that preposition? What if we said Brad helps Jen in the bed? Well, just by changing a preposition, we've gotten a little more direct meaning on our statement. But that's the point. That is why over the large-scale evolution of human diction, English has become the language of science. It's because it has the most unique prepositions. Now moving on. And now I just want to emphasize the point that in both physics and language, we go from generality, time passes, to specificity. But as the universe cooled, different arrangements of atoms allowed for different elements. And before different elements, the decrease in temperature allowed for atoms in the first place. But once the universe was a big uniform blob of energy, that's the most general anything can be. Now you as a person, as you learn more words, you can speak more specifically. For the same reasons, again. Well, we all experience the same things. We're all here running around, living our lives, we're all different people, but whether you're male, female, gay, straight, black, white, anywhere in between, yeah, pretty much have the same life experience. And then I have up here again the it is what it is statement, and I wrote, and that it is love. Make a simple conjecture that people can only talk about love. That the only function of language at all is love. All forms of love. Sexy love, friend love. I guess that's probably only two. Parental love, I don't know. But what would be the evidence if that was true? This is 4 statements, guys. If this was true, from the foundations of fundamental physics, which we just threw away, redid correctly, to 4 sentences, what would be the evidence that is completely true? Well, you would say, good vibes only, bro. Everything around you is vibrating. Love is a vibe. But that is, again, this is the most general thing any organism wants. Not just person, right? Go turn on the Animal Channel. Go watch an antelope about to get mauled. You will literally see fear in their eyeballs. And that's very uniform. Talk to anyone, a hunter, people that have been through tragedy, anything. The thing people remember is fear in their eyes. But what I'm showing you is that this experience, it extends past just our species as well. But that is why every person at a rave or any concert says, yeah, dude, good vibes only, because it's actually valid, right? In our empirical value function, it is a true statement. Very, very general, does not provide a lot of insight. The more generality you have, the more specificity you have. But that is what's going on. And that's why if you talk to any expert, they explain it very simply, because the difficulties is figuring out how to describe the world within ourselves. There's no, life is not complicated, physics is not complicated, math is not complicated. Having the patience and the discipline to learn and learn and learn and keep at it for many, many years, that is what is challenging. But that's true, and that is true. Moving on. And so now I just want to talk about a couple simple examples of how language expands. And I'm on the ever-famous Reddit right now. I'm on a post. So this is under the subreddit Roast Me. The title is, today is, I don't know what today is, the 8th maybe. One second, I can find out. The 10th. That's a couple days off. So it's the 10th, January 10th, 2020. And it's a Roast Me post. My friend thinks you guys are too vanilla. 5'11", 83 kilogram. Thinks he's God's gift to women. This is if you want to see the Reddit post yourself. But now I just scroll down to the comments. Okay, so the first thing anyone does on any YouTube video is read the comments. Fact. Why is that? Well, because no one's that smart and no one's that stupid. People don't want to waste their time. So what are they going to do? They're going to see how everyone else who watched the video reacted to it. And that gets to my point of we all have the same experiences and no one's that different than one another. But here's getting to that Reddit post. There's just the first comment is the only reason he's God's gift to women is because he drives them to their boyfriend's house in his father's cab. And then these are all different responders. Well, not suitable for work, this section of the video. But then the next guy commented, nobody has napalm this hard since Vietnam. And then someone commented, I smell something and it's morning. I think I love it. Then, it's my board and I like it. Then, it's my money and I want it now. Call JG Wentworth 877 cash now. Those are all different posts. But this is showing you other people literally expanding the it is what it is statement. And you'll see this all over Reddit and all over comment sections anywhere. People will say something funny, people will say something correct, and people will slightly try to modify it a little bit to get a bunch of upvotes. Apes. But this is how we function. I mean, I'm not trying to be insulting, this is just how we function. But I mean, this is how we do it all day, every day on our Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube. And those are some simple examples. I think I'm going to wrap up this lecture here. I wanted to show you more about different languages, but it's just a lot more content. But I don't think I'm going to finish this lecture here, but thought there was some good content.